But speaking of new music, did you listen to Shay Noir's? I guess I want to say newest effort, but it was released today.
I did. I mean,
Shay's consistent.
she's great. That's what I was about to say. And
The Last Remnants, excuse me, is the album, and here's the cover too. But yeah,
yeah.
what are some of your thoughts?
My thoughts are, and I didn't really totally. I was already having this thought, but then you told me like about all the work she had done this year and how she posted it. That's her way of saying, I think, like, hey, like I deserve some MC of the year contention and consideration, and I think we're gonna have to give her that because if like I'm gonna go back and listen to all the projects again, and we're gonna start at the top with food for thought, of course.
Well, let me put the projects on the screen since you're speaking to that.
Yeah, go ahead and
We'll
throw them
talk about
into the deck.
remnants, but these are the four projects she put out this year.
Give me 2 seconds, Mike. I
Uh
need to
huh.
grab my notes and I need to go grab some
Yeah, go ahead.
popcorn.
Yes,
Yeah, put
these
the
are
fragments.
these are the four projects that Shay Noir's put out this year. We got the last remnants. We got food for thought, and yeah, she's putting in work. She's killing it right now. And actually, what I heard from the project, and I know Coop's going to get his notes. Very soulful project. She's super consistent, and she does deserve to be in an MC of the year discussion. I mean, I think Food for Thought, from what we've said on this show, is easily a top five hip hop album of 2022. Even though we're gonna go even more in depth on that on our Patreon and kind of just go track for track with the ransom. I've been listening to Liz too this week as well. I love the Liz too personally, but I am not gonna put it ahead of Food for Thought. I don't think I can do that. Um, yeah, four projects in 1 year. Yeah, she's putting in work. As much as I like the Liz, and I think the Liz is super dope, I don't think I could put it ahead of Food for Thought. And I've been listening to it, you know what I'm saying, all week, listening to both all week. But the Liz is very entertaining, and I know I only brought that up because we had spoken about that in our previous show, where those two rank. But what were some of your notes?
What about the Che
Uh huh.
or about the Liz or which
No,
notes?
no, about the last remnants. I'm gonna get into the new music, but the Liz two
No,
is
I
dope.
mean
We already
I
talked
don't think
about
it's as
that.
good as food for thoughts. I believe that this was like the stuff that hasn't made like her projects this year,
Right,
and
right,
so I believe it was kind of like lost tapes. Like if it's lost tapes, like I mean, it's pretty exquisite. You know what I'm saying?
right.
It's pretty much saying it's like this is stuff I didn't drop this year,
It's the
and it's
stuff,
like oh, this is what you didn't drop?
and it was well put together too. It sounds like a
Yes.
full out project, even though it's like what is it, like 8 or 9 songs, and these are remnants and records that didn't come out. She still was able to put them together in a in a
Cohesive
sequence.
manner,
Yeah, in a
right?
cohesive manner where it felt like a project.
That's one of the things that I'm noticing that I do enjoy about her projects is that well, she's not only a dope MC, but the projects are well put together. The sequencing, the order, the song selection. Even with some of these tracks, I'll tell you what, I enjoyed some of these records, but it's like I could hear a couple tracks that it's like oh, I could see like how this like is good enough to be on Food for Thought, but maybe didn't fit because she was
Right.
working with a theme. You know?
You're gonna appreciate this. I was listening to the original version of Prince's "I Can Never Take the Place of Your Man," recorded in
Mm-mm-mm.
what 1978 ish, and you're
Ish.
thinking like, damn, how do you put together a song that's great and it doesn't make it on anything? And I guess like you said, it didn't fit. And then when the time came right, not only did he put it on Sign of the Times, he redid it and bumped it up. And in my
Took it up
opinion,
a level.
as much as I mean, I like both versions. I think that they both give you a different value and quality for the song. The first one's just super raw, but I think that most people would agree that the version that made it on Sign of the Times is the bumped up um, and improved version, for lack of a better term.
You know, sometimes the best thing about your own genius is knowing that you're not genius enough. Like that record, actually, Mike. I mean, if you really want to talk about the quality of the record for the music that he was making at the time, Well, I don't know what other songs that he wrote around that 77, 78, 79 period, Mike, but that's the best one.
Yeah,
You feel me?
yeah. I
Like,
mean,
that's the best
yeah,
one. So I think he probably maybe knew that too. You get what I'm saying? Like sometimes when you know something, you hold something. Like, hold on, like the world may not be ready for this. I may not be ready for this. Because if you go look at his material around that time, it's like that song, the songwriting on that song is superior.
the original version, the one that was recorded in 78, 79, would have been a hit in 78, 79.
Right, but how big would it have been? You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah, I think we're at a point now, man. I don't think people are going to be able to hold on to material. And so you see an unreleased, like you said, lost tapes in a sense, coming out the same year that she put out the projects that didn't make it on. You know what I mean? I think that's
Right.
more of what we're gonna see. We're not gonna see people holding on to records and reworking records 10 years later.
Oh shit.
Andrew Green with the super chat says, "Y'all need to check out the new Green Lantern mixtape, Woo York State of Mind, inspired by the tour. It has classic Nas verses over classic Wu Tang beats and vice versa. It's on Hip Hop DX, dope blend tape. I gotta check that out. I love the blend tapes. I love when J. Dot Period does shit, man. Like when he does his Daylight and Tribe mixes. It's so seamless.
Told you, Mike. New York State of Mind over Killer Hills 10304.
Incredible stuff. But yeah, I think the Shay, I don't know, man. I think obviously she's in the MC of the Year contention, but she has to get something, in our yearbook for, putting out so much material and so much high quality material. Like, do you have any previews for what some of the 2022 accolades will be? I mean, because we're approaching November.
You know, it's been a frighteningly even type of year.
Yeah.
And so it's been hard to parse it out. And so this is one of those things that I'm talking about where she is separating herself, in my opinion, to a degree, because it's like, oh, well, look at the work.
Yeah.
This is why the work matters.
In an even kill year, yeah, if you put out 4 projects to everybody else's one, then you do get a level of consideration. I
Right.
think that even even where King's Disease 2 was last year, I mean, we had it as the runaway album of the year the whole year, and then when Magic dropped, it was like, okay, well, this isn't even a conversation anymore. So yeah,
Right.
and we are living in a time where we're seeing this. Like we saw in 2020, West Side put out "Pray for Paris," put out "Fly God." What was it, 2? And then put out, "The Sunshine." Like 3 projects in a year on a high level. Like this is becoming a common occurrence, and this is becoming one of those things that we're going to start expecting from people who are MC of the year. Especially when Nas, at that point in his career, can put out King's Disease 2 and Magic.
Well, what she's doing isn't that. I like the West Side or maybe a Boldy comparison, which is also closer to home too. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, how about this? We gave um we gave West Side Artist of the Year our first year in 2020, and it had a lot to do with the fact that he gave us 3 full-length quality projects in a year.
Yeah.
So if she's giving us 4, and I mean, you get what I'm saying? Like, what
Mm-hmm.
does that say?
She doesn't have a Pray for Paris, and we got to be fair about that.
No, that's fair too.
I mean, Pray for Paris was a tone setter, and I think that, it's 2 years later, nearly 3 years later. I don't think it's too soon to say that Pray for Paris set the tone for the 2020s. I think that we're still feeling the effects of Pray for Paris and Alfredo, too. I'll put Alfredo in that mix as well. I think we're still feeling the hip hop effects of that because now it feels like we got 2 very distinctive lanes. I don't know if it was always like this. Maybe it was like this to some degree. You got people who are making albums and people who are making singles. That's what
Right.
it is. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, not a lot of people are doing a bit of both. Like, we're used to seeing the best albums for the most part, on the mainstream level, have some of the bigger singles. And we're going to get to that discussion in a minute when we talk about, 93 and 94. But
Right.
right now, what we're looking like is artists are just either totally focused on making a great quality album or you're totally focused on making a hot single. Is that fair?
I mean, I told you it. This is the interesting place that we're in that I keep speaking to. It's like where everybody kind of wants to like make these like singles,
Yeah.
but it's like the singles aren't like high level quality. It's like if you want to do the Motown theme, it's like, well, you're gonna need Smokey and Marvin Gaye and David Ruffin and Stevie Wonder and Diana Ross and the Supremes. You feel what I'm saying? It's like the talent need to look a certain way to pull off the living off of a hit single type of thing. And so I think the artists who are focusing on albums are really starting to separate themselves more in the long run, because I think what happens when you become a good album maker, that inherently makes you a better song maker, and then the singles start becoming better and better.
I agree with that.
You know?
CJ Kid with the super chat says, Goody Mob posted the Drink Champs with Migos about Dungeon Family versus Wu. Seems like they really want that. How would the Dungeon Family have to play that? Since I know you feel Wu would win. Want both parties' opinion. What's your opinion on that?
It's Wu-Tang.
But I'm saying, how would the Dungeon Family have to play this?
I don't know what they could do because their biggest records are going to resonate more for the region than for what is considered to be the traditional hip hop landscape. It's like in hip hop, when you're from New York and you're great, you have like home court advantage. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so there is no bigger home court advantage than Wu-Tang Clan. You know what I mean? It's like, that's what I was trying to tell you. It's just like, no, Mike, them ain't regular records. Like, Shame on the Nigga ain't a regular, like, rap record. Like,
Okay,
that might be
what
like
if
the
Shame
fifth
on a
best song
Nigga?
on that album. That's the highlight of other people's albums. It's another great record on an album full of great songs.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate though. What if Shame on a Nigga gets hit by like a Dirty South or something?
See, I think that's the problem. I think those records are comparable, and that would be somewhere in the middle of the road for Wu-Tang's best stuff, but that would be the high end for Dungeon Family. That's the problem.
Because I think that, when you talk about Cass, I think and you ran into this too when we were doing the Outkast and Tribe verses.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Cass can really hit you with big singles. But how do they fare against like some core Wu-Tang shit? Like how does Miss Jackson fare up against Bring the Pain or something? Like,
well, no, how about this? No, let's keep it Wu-Tang for a second. It's like, Mike, what are you gonna do? This is what I mean. They're like, Into the Wu-Tang's a whole field. Like, what are you gonna do when you hear Tiger Style? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to what are you gonna do when that happens? You feel me? Like, there's not a lot that you can do when that happens.
As an Outkast fan, what I would do when that happens, damn, that's tough. I mean,
that's what I mean. Mike, what are you gonna do when Chex Boxing comes on and Meth is like, and you hear Dirty in the background? Oh, people's where you with me? Where you at? In the front, in the back. Killer Beans on. Oh, what are you gonna do? Shit is massive, Mike. It's massive.
Yeah, it is. The energy.
How about this? I want to talk about Enter the Wu-Tang specifically because I think Enter the Wu-Tang is probably the main reason that Illmatic probably didn't get the love on the East Coast that it should have gotten, Mike. Because people were still in a frenzy. People were in a Wu-Tang frenzy.
I think the core part of it, yes. But from a mainstream level, that was ready to die. But yeah, it got caught in the middle of both of those things.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it. Yeah.
Our man with the super chat says, peace. Thank y'all so much for the Cube versus Face battle. It was awesome. One question, Coop, did you consider playing Face's verse from World War III or Portrayal? Both verses are stellar.
I thought about the betrayal verse, and I love the verse. I felt like the pace wasn't good enough because you have to understand the main thing I was worried about, like going against you, was the pace that Ice Cube keeps because of his energy
Yeah.
as an artist. And so I knew Face has a slower pace. And so think about it. I played his best slow records. I played Now I Feel Ya. I played A Minute of Pray and Second of... You get what I'm saying? I didn't want to slow it down too much because I think slowing it down too much without his greatest stuff wouldn't have kept with your pace. As much as I like Betrayal, I don't think that's his A plus game. You know what I'm saying? And so that's one of those things that because of the pace, that I kind of set it to the side. And the other thing I was obviously worried about, it's like, well, Ice Cube wrote Straight Outta Compton.
Yeah, and I think, if we're talking about from a versus standpoint, and I'm kind of going to go back to this Wu-Tang Dungeon Family thing, the energy from those records that you're talking about, it's very different. And, I think that the Dungeon Family stuff was a lot more reflective. I think that some of the more high energy records or lesser known records like Witch Doctor Holiday and stuff like that,
Right.
which in Atlanta that was going crazy, but I don't know if everybody's privy to that or even Watch for the Hook or something like that. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, how about this? That's what I'm saying. So Watch for the Hook and Creatine would do better against Wu-Tang than people realize. You feel me?
But people don't know those records like that.
That's the problem.
That's the problem, yeah.
Right.
Because
That's
Holiday,
the problem. Like
to me, Holiday's one of the
have
best
the
beats
energy,
ever come out of here.
But the records that actually have the energy and the feel and the vibe
Yeah.
and the content to actually go up against the Wu-Tang records, well, people aren't familiar with those records. It's like when I play Chunky Fire.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
like I said, Holiday is, in my opinion, one of the hardest beats to ever come out of this city. Shout out to Empress Cersei. I think he produced that one. But yeah. But people aren't really privy to that like that.
Right.
You want to talk some Kanye? Or Ye?
I mean, yes. I guess it's, yeah.
It's that part of the show. It's that time of year. Okay.
No, it's necessary. He's making it very necessary.
I would say so. CJ Kidd with the super chat says, "What is the Dungeon Family's core? Anywho, Outkast, Goody Mob, and who else? It's Cool Breeze, Witch Doctor, and Backbone. Shout out to Backbone with Five Deuce Foe Trade. Got to get played." He said, "We know who the main Wu members are." Yeah, I think every crew that's that big, you always have the guys who make quality work, but are lesser, known to the mass public. People don't know Master Killer like that unless you're a Wu-Tang fan. Ask people who aren't Wu-Tang fans like that to name all the Wu-Tang members, and they're gonna name you the same ones.
No, I feel you.
Godfather with a super chat says, "Yo, Coop and Mike, can the people just leave Nas alone?" No, they can't. I mean, it's just part of the media and part of the plan. Michael Williams with the super chat says, "Who has a stronger solo discography, Pusha T or Gibbs?" I like this question.
I think it's a valid question.
I think it is too. It might be Gibbs, actually.
It might actually be Gibbs because I think in having Alfredo, he has something comparable to Daytona.
Mm-hmm.
And so here's what I would tell you is it's like, well, what does Pusha T have that's comparable to Bandana, Pinata, and Soul Sold Separately?
Right.
Like all three. Like all three. Like I think My Name Is My Name could be comparable to Pinata in some regards,
Right.
Darkest Before Dawn is not as good as Bandana or Sold So Separately. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. Have to say Gibbs.
Till it's dry. I mean, even comparing till it's almost dry to Soul Sold Separately this year. I mean, I would have to give Freddie the edge because I think
Gibbs made the better album. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but he doesn't have a Hell Hath No Fury though.
Yeah.
Has no Hell Hath.